Welcome back everyone. So I've assembled all the parts that I need to build the bike. So I've laid them out here and I've also weighed them. So the bike should be 8 kilograms. So what we'll do is we'll just run through this list and we'll actually weigh each component. So if you look back at the previous videos, the bike was unpainted, so I've painted the bike now and we'll weigh the bike last. But we've actually managed to save some weight by sanding it back and just giving it a light coat. So the bike weighed 2.6 kilos. If you can just see there, it's 17 grams. So we've managed to shave off 14 grams. Just by sanding back the old paint and then re-stickering the frame with a light coat of paint on top and then removing the stickers to remove the old frame colours. So I'll just turn on the scales there. So we'll start with the Tange headset. You can see it already says 84 grams on the box. So 86 grams. When I weighed it, it weighed 85. So give or take a gram or two, it weighs what the stated weight is. So that's the Tange headset. Then we have the M-Wave square tapered bottom bracket. I've always used Shimano, but I've used M-Wave bottom brackets for the last couple of years now and never had any issues, and the quality is really good. So we'll just turn the scales back on. So this is the M-Wave square tapered bottom bracket. which weighs 258 grams. And the width of this is 118mm, and it's a British standard bottom bracket, meaning the showers are 68mm. So really good quality bottom bracket, nice and lightweight. Can't recommend M-Wave enough for bottom brackets, to be fair. Always good quality. So as you can see there, the bottom bracket is 258 grams. So we'll just pop that to the side. So the next thing is the crank and chainring. It's coming up at 635. I had that at 633. The next is the Tetro TRP R750 rim brakes, and these are a carbon fibre rim brake with a small aluminium mould inside, so they're quite lightweight and they weigh 318 grams, and as you can see there, 318 grams. And then we have the TRP Tetro carbon fibre brake levers. A really nice looking brake lever actually. All carbon fibre, nice and lightweight. They should be 140 grams and they've come in at 139. Then we have the gold chain, which is in its packet, and we always wax the chain. It's much easier when you get a puncture and when you're maintaining the bike, just not to get dirty hands. And the gold chain in the packet should weigh 340 grams. So that's 341. And I will say you get a much better crisp gear change with a wax chain, and it does prolong the component life of the chain and the rear cassette. So we've got the gold rear cassette, which is an 1132. That's made by VG Sports. As you can see there, it's an 11 tooth. I actually really like these cassettes. And for quite a big cassette, it's not a bad weight. So the gold cassette should be 338 grams. It's just 337 there. That's in the packet, but we'll give that. Right, so we'll move that out of the way. So that's for the chain. This is a grease. We use that for the wheels, for the bearing hubs, and for the pores in the rear hub. So we've got gold brake cables. Just move the down tube shifters out of the way there. We've got gold. So they're 170 grams. And we've got those down as being 173. Because we're only going to use a 1x setup, I'll only be using one cable for the gears, so we will save some weight on that. But in the packet, that's 170 grams. So then we'll move over to the Look Keo composite pedals. And they weigh 278. And as you can see there, 278. Next we have the quill stem, which was actually one of the heaviest parts of the bike build. Once you've picked up a few light parts and then you start picking up stuff that's 300 and odd grams, it starts feeling quite heavy, even though 300 grams is really light. So the quill stem is 328 and we've got it at 327 there. We've got some Morph 3T brand new handlebars, and they weigh 257 grams, but they're extremely difficult to balance on the scales, so we'll just have a quick go with me trying to hold it without adding weight, which is probably going to be quite hard, but they do weigh 255 grams because I've used a bit of blue tack just to prop them up so they didn't fall over. So that's the handlebars. Then we have the down tube shifter. So these are brand new, a Sunrace, and they weigh 55 grams for the shifter and the cable. Obviously we'll only be using the one shifter because we're running a 1x. Then we have the rear derailleur, which again, just cheap and cheerful. I've gone for a Shimano Sora medium cage derailleur. And that weighs 276 grams. And there we have 275 grams. got some jockey wheels which I could fit to the derailleur, which I may do, but it's more for show, just to match the chainring if I do. Then we have the Tufo S33 Pro tubular tyres. I'm very brand loyal when it comes to tyres, chain wax. If you've raced in the velodrome or you're into time trial, then you'll know the only thing to use is banana wax for your chain wax. I think everybody in the velodrome uses that, along with Veloflex tubular tyres. I'm a massive fan of Veloflex tyres, but they are very expensive. So for me personally, this is a personal choice. I really like Tufo tubular tyres. I've run Vittorias and they're a great tyre, but you kind of get to a certain mileage with them and they start falling apart. And I've never experienced this with Tufo tyres or Veloflex tyres. Admittedly, Veloflex tyres are for the velodrome only, really. But the Tufo tubular tyres give you a good all-round performance tyre with really good puncture protection. So I always use Tufo tubular tyres, and they are the S33 Pro 24mm Tufo tubular tyre. And they shock a lot of people because they're a very, very, very respectable weight. So we'll just show you the weight of this tyre. So this is the Tufo S33 Pro 24mm tubular tyre. It's handmade in the Czech Republic. And the quality of this tyre does actually match Veloflex in many ways, bar the weight. But you need to accept the added weight because of the puncture protection and the way that the tyre is a vulcanised rubber, which means that the sidewall here is actually a rubber rather than being a cotton. So I'll just pop these on the scales there. Just move that out of the way so it's not affecting the weight of the scales. So as you can see, they're an incredibly light tyre, bearing in mind it incorporates the latex vulcanised rubber inner tube inside. So this is why I use Tufo tyres outside, and will only use Veloflex inside. But for the money, I promise you, you will not find a faster, more robust tyre than the S33 Pro. It really is a great tyre, and it really does ride and feel like a premium high-end £120 plus tubular tyre. So I can't recommend these enough. They are a great tyre. So I've got 3 of them, and I always buy 3. 2 and then 1 for spare. And then we have some titanium skewers, and they come in at 47 grams, and they're made by Prime. So 47 grams. 47 grams. So I'll just move all this out of the way so you can actually measure. And weigh the wheels. So again, this is a bit of an old-fashioned brand, but if you were into bikes many years ago, you'll remember the brand Matrix. Excuse me, it's going to be quite difficult for me to balance these wheels, so let's just do the back wheel first. Might be a bit difficult for me to balance the let me just okay, so the rear wheel, and it's a 50mm deep matrix tubular wheel, and the rear wheel is 764 grams. I've got the back wheel shown as 776, so $764 for the rear wheel. So if you've just noticed there, the scales have actually adjusted themselves, so that's a -10. So that would have been the correct weight, because they said they were 767. So if we minus the 10, which means adding it back on, it will give us the 776. So we'll just do the front wheel now. I think that's right. Yep. And then we have 593 and 595. So we've successfully managed to hit the 8 kg build weight, which is excellent, because I've just weighed everything today and I wasn't overly fussed on spending lots of money on parts. One, because you don't necessarily need all the best parts, and secondly, you can actually buy some really good parts for minimal money, much like these tyres, and these will make a huge difference to the way that your bike rides. And you obviously need to have a decent set of wheels, and it's helped having a rim brake bike because it means that I can keep the weight down on the wheel set, which has enabled me to hit this 8 kilogram target. Because as you can see, the front wheel is 593 grams and the back wheel is 776. Along with the tyres, it means that the weight is very minimal. So the next plan is to build the bike, and then we'll race against some friends on their carbon bikes, which is the Cervelo S5, the Scottfoil RC30, a Cannondale Super 6 Evo, a Specialized so we'll just weigh the frame. Now we've got some space on the side. So that's the frame that I've sprayed and decaled, and then removed the decals to reveal the original frame paint. So the frame with the Ritchie carbon saddle and seat post is 1948. And then we'll just add the fork. So you can see I've decaled the forks. And we've done that both sides there, look. Just to freshen up the frame and try and take a little bit of weight off, which we've managed to save 14 grams, which is quite good for paint. So the frame and fork with the saddle, seat post and seat bolt is 2613, and I have it at 2603. So that must have been where the 10 grams difference in the weight was. But we have successfully managed to keep the weight at 8 kilograms, which I'm really pleased with. So now the test will be to put this bike together with all of these parts and then race my friends and see if we can take some Strava comms. And I may even race a bike in a crit race, just to show people you don't really necessarily need all the best equipment or a carbon bike. You just need to think about the build and what you would like to achieve. So for me, it was about building a road bike with the cheapest parts that I could find that would give me the best performance for my money. Some people have different goals and they like to build a bike for looks, and they like to build a bike to spend money, and that's all okay, which is why I'd like to build this bike and complete this series to show people that you can do this with just a basic bike and some cheap parts. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.